Hey, what's up everyone? Josh here and welcome to another video. We're going to have some fun today and take a look at the MLC Sub-Zero 100 in its plugin format, available from Bogren Digital. So let's hear it in a quick mix and then we'll dive into it together and check it out. Alright, so as you can hear, this amp sounds wonderful in that high gain rock world. It's nice and chunky, it's super warm, and it fits right in with everything. And one of the things about this amp is you look at it and you see the black and red and how it's built and you go, okay, we're going to get some serious heat with this amplifier. But it has a lot of surprises that aren't necessarily in that high gain world that we're so used to. Let's hear the default tone and you'll see what I mean. And you might be saying to yourself, oh, I was not expecting that with an amp that looks like that. And trust me, I hear you. But what we're dealing with the MLC Sub-Zero 100 is really kind of a hot-rodded plexi style amplifier. So we're going to be spending time in that world of tone, all right? So let's take a look at the interface and then we'll talk about some sounds. Starting with the pedal section, you have two to choose from. You have the Vanilla Sky from MLC, and then you have the OVD1 from Bogren Digital. The Fascination Street is how they branded it, which is the name of his studio. And these are both really awesome pedals. They both offer something a little different. Here's the Vanilla Sky set up just at default. And then as we start to increase the drive, you'll notice it starts to really push it a little bit more, maybe increase that level a little bit. And it's not super aggressive, but it is pushing the amp. And as we really crank that level, you'll hear how it starts to really push this. So let's crank that thing all the way up. And we're getting all of that just from the pedal section. So what that tells me is that this amp responds very well to pedals, dynamically speaking. You have these color options here. You have the white and the blue. What are those? Well, white is your EQ for your treble. And then the blue is for the bass. All right, you can hear we're getting pretty serious. And that's partly because we have the drive engaged and we're pushing it pretty hard. But what's really cool about this Vanilla Sky pedal is that these actually do something beyond just a little tiny subtle boost. You know, some boost pedals that have EQ options on the front, they don't really do a whole lot for us. And you're kind of like, is this really doing anything? I don't know. And so you either crank it or you have it off completely. This actually has something in it that you can hear while you're adjusting it. And I like that. So very cool. Then we have the OVD1. This is going to be more of your classic, you know, driver, screamer, whatever you want to call it. And I'll kind of put it in how I normally dial them in and just see how we sound there. Really, really good stuff. Now, one thing I did find on this OVD pedal is I actually liked the way it sounded with the level back a little bit and the drive up a little bit. I normally don't use much drive for these type of pedals. I usually just boost the amp or push the amp and let the gain on the amp do the work, but hey, I liked it. Moving on to the amp face itself, you have some cool features to check out. Before we dive into these, let's talk about real quick. Up here, you have A and B control, so if you want to compare tones, you can. You have your preset menu here. You have your input control, output control. Down here on the bottom left is the tuna, and you can mute your rig with it, which I really like. And then you have a quality option for oversampling. So this is with it normal. And then when you engage this for the zero compromise sound, right? The differences are subtle, and I'm sure if we put them on like a frequency thing, we could probably see where this is winning a little bit. But honestly, the normal for me seems to do well, and it saves a little bit on the CPU. So do whatever is good for you. All right. Then over here, let's dive into the controls now. So you have the power option, and it turns it on and off. Imagine that. Then you have a built-in gate here. Good stuff. I find that this gate, I actually was cool with being a little less aggressive than my normal gate settings. The presence control here, listen to the sweep. Pretty intense sweep on the presence control. This is one of those amps where, normally we like to really push the presence up and kind of have it cut through, but I actually like how this one sounds with it a little dialed back, and it does really well. Depth control, so this is like your power soak here. Kind of think of it like your resonance control on some of the other amps you may be used to, and it just adds a little bit of beef without having to mess with the EQ. You have your low and high feedback circuits here, or circuit feedback rather. And there's the train. You're probably hearing the train. Let's go, baby. That's how it works in Montana. I gotta love it. All right, so moving on, here's the gain control. Here's the sweep on it. And you can hear we get pretty dang serious once we start cranking it up a little bit. I find that the sweet spot for the gain for me is kind of in that 12 to 2 o'clock range on this, so I can really play hard and let the amp kind of sing for me. Then you have a volume control here. It's not the master volume, but it is a volume for the channel itself. So you can set the different channel volumes basically with this, and that's pretty cool. It gives you more control. Your bass, middle, treble, these are kind of active style EQs. You'll notice that the 0 point is, or the center point is right at 0 here. It's not like this, it's in the middle. So that tells me that it's going to be pretty sensitive, kind of like an active style EQ, almost like on your Triple X and other ones that have it like this, or even like the Laney Ironheart, kind of a same setup. And it's very responsive. And I find that I don't have to mess with these much to really get what I want. That's a compliment to the amp and the pedal and the cab and everything, because when I don't have to spend too much time here, that's a good thing. Let's talk about one of the really cool features of the MLC Sub-Zero 100, which is the M45 switch. This kind of reduces and tames the gain down a little bit and gives us more of a traditional plexi sound. So here it is with it off. Right? But then watch what happens when I turn this on. So it tames the gain down a little bit, and it allows us to kind of have a longer leash on the gain. And I really like to really warm it up and fatten it up with a little more gain on this, and then maybe a little more treble, just a little bit, and then get this kind of sound going. Yeah, really nice stuff. And again, the treble might even be a little too much. And you'll notice that these adjustments are not huge adjustments. They are not broad strokes. They're kind of fine tuning. Yeah, you see, it makes a big difference. And then maybe put the depth up a little bit to give it a little more boominess. Good stuff. And you can see how easily you can kind of switch between these different places to get the tone you're after. So you have two different brightness options. You have bright 1. And then you have bright number 2. So it's not like they're monumental adjustments. It's not like you're switching a channel or anything, but you're just adding a little bit of character in that high end to maybe increase some clarity or get a little bit more sharpness out of it. Sky's the limit. Then you have your 6L6 and EL34 options here for the power tubes. The one in real life, so to say, comes with EL34s. That's your more brown sound style tube, a little more rock and roll. And then the 6L6 is going to be a little more modern. So let's just hear a quick comparison here. And then the EL34. You get locked into that, that Metallica style stuff really easy. All right. So we'll keep it on the EL34. I really like how they sound in this. Moving on to the cabinet section. This is a really well done cab section. You have two to choose from. You have your modern or your vintage cab. You just select what microphone you want. They're the same in each. Let's hear how they sound real quick. So we'll start with the Dynamic 57 on the modern. And then as you continue, you'll notice the vintage cab comes up here. I really like that Dynamic R20 for the big fat rhythm tones that you can dial in here because it really picks up a nice warm fat tone. You can manipulate the mic by clicking and moving it around and then adjust the angle right here. So the controls are nice and simple, not too complicated. You can blend these to your heart's content with this slider. So let's say, for instance, over here, I get this vintage cab. With that, I can kind of see which blend I like the most and go from there. We'll switch it back to the 57. Now let's talk about the IRDX technology. This is really important stuff because this is what really helps this amp sim stand out from the others. So with it, what it does essentially is when we drive speaker cabinets to the levels that we need to get the tones that we know and love, the air movement from those speakers actually becomes a part of the sound. And it's one thing that most traditional IRs have had a little bit of a problem emulating. You just can't really emulate that electronically until now. So check this out. With it off, this is what we've been used to, And it sounds pretty dang chunky, right? It sounds really good. But listen to how it sounds when we turn it on. Really, really awesome when you turn that on and you start to hear the different character that comes out in that IR and a little bit of compression that naturally happens with that movement. And you can dial this up however much or however little you want, but I would recommend you keep it on and you take advantage of it. It is amazing stuff, all right? Okay, EQ time, 10-band EQ. Pretty straightforward. You don't have any high or low pass filtering knobs like some of them do. This is a pretty traditional, straight up 10-band EQ that's going to get you the results you're after. I don't use it a whole lot. You can turn it off with that button there. And again, have control of the amp face from the EQ. So common theme, really good stuff. I like to see that. Okay, moving on to the post section, you have a reverb and a delay. Both are very powerful, very straightforward, very solid. This is your delay here. And what I like about it is that the time only goes up to 910. I know that sounds funny, but the truth is some delays go up so far where you'd never use them. This is more of a realistic delay. You can sync it to your DAW or you can free range it, whatever you want to call it, free it, free the delay, baby. And then ping pong on and off. So with the ping pong on, you can hear how it kind of bounces back and forth. And then with it off, you have your more traditional, really nice stuff there. So there's your delay, and then you have a reverb here, and this reverb is really nice. It's very solid, and it's very smooth. With it at its default settings, you kind of hear how it gives it just a little more body, a little bit more openness there. It's not like we're doing some crazy concert hall, but if you really want to play that rock and roll chunky stuff, a little bit of reverb can really boost some of that body for you. But what this has on it that's a little different than some others is it has a low cut here. So the lower it is, the more boomy your reverb's going to be. So this is with it all the way off or low, and then with it all the way up, it's a lot less boomy. So what that does is it allows you some control of that reverb. This is really great for recording or if you're playing live and you're, have other instruments going on, nice touch, and then you have your pre-delay there. So, all in all, a very comprehensive, all inclusive guitar suite. And this amp, again, is fire. All right, let's talk about some sounds here. I have created some presets that I'd love to show you. The first one is called Hammy's Beef. This is the rhythm tone that you heard in the demo video. So when I think of what I love about this amp the most, it's that throatiness and that beef that you get, right? And so I have dialed this in the way I like it for that high gain stuff using the OVD1. And then on the cab section, I'm using that Tube 67 to kind of beef it out on the right side, and then the regular 57 here. So that's that one. And I really like that for the high gain stuff. Let's talk about another one here. This one I call Hammond Thrash, and this is more of a thrashy tone. You'll notice that the mids are cut big time here, and you get more of this type of sound. So a little more thrashy sounding, a little more unruly. The gates down a little bit on this one. I've got the red drive going again for that. And on the cab section, I'm using 257s, kind of just straightforward and rocking and rolling. A little bit of EQ on that one. And then I've got a little bit of reverb on the back end to kind of give it that old school sound. So there you go. There's that one. All right, moving on to my next one here. This one's called Blue Hammy, and I actually really love this one for kind of that bluesy style stuff. I got the M45 going. I like to switch to the single coil for this one. Pretty darn tame, and it sounds, really bluesy. But if you switch to your humbucker, you'll notice that you're kind of in a different world of tone here. Really nice stuff there. Got a little slap back going with the delay and the reverb. And then on the front, I'm using the Vanilla Sky with a little bit of tweakage here, just kind of pushing it, not too hard, typical stuff. Really, really good. All right, this one I've got called Spheres to the Barrier, and this is a really fun one for me. You'll kind of see where I'm going with the name when I play this riff. So really classic, old school plexi driven stuff there, right? You got the vintage cab going, you got a little EQ, and then some reverb on the back end. And then I'm using the Overdrive 1 here with quite a bit of drive and just pushing it where I normally do. I really like how that one came out. You kind of hear when you stop, you get that little bit of that extra on the end. So there's that one. And this amp can do that all day. Hammy's clean. Now we're talking about a little bit of clean tone here. So let me switch to my single coil and play something a little more clean here. Really nice clean tones. This amp can do so much on the clean sound. It's kind of an American style sounding clean with tons of room to do whatever you want. You could really get edge of breakup and all that stuff out of it, but this is just a straight up clean tone that I like. All right, this one is called Leadfoot or Leadfoot, whatever you want to call it, and I use it for my shred stuff. So there's that one, and you could really switched it up, with single coil and it's a little noisy on that single coil. That's just probably the guitar, not the amp doing that. But there you go, a few options just to kind of hear what it sounds like tonally or what I like to do with some of the presets. I think my favorite thing to do with this amp at the end of the day is really that rock style tone, Yeah, really love it. So as you can see, this amp is very versatile. There's a lot of things you can do with it that are in between 0 and 100, right? It's not just a one-trick pony where you turn it on and you rumble the walls down. You can really dive into the dynamics on offer here between the amp, the cab section, and the powerful pedals on the front end, and really dial in something special. So I got to hand it to Bogren Digital on this. I really love the full suite. We've done the amp knobs, but this one is actually more what we're used to with the full suites and stuff. And I found myself really having a good time going in here and adjusting things and getting it the way I wanted. And that was partly because the layout is very easy to dive into. It's very intuitive, and it's not overly complicated where you say, I don't know what that is and I'm not going to touch it. Everything on here works wonderfully. So again, go check this out. It's available from Bogren Digital, the MLC Sub-Zero 100. Hope you enjoyed our little demonstration of it. Thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll see you on the next video.